Hey, welcome to Road Testament. I'm Mike Spinelli. You know me from things like the internet, and also you know somebody from the internet. Ken Block is here. Hi, Ken. What's up?
Hi, Mike.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. You just had a very good week. We're going to be talking about Gymkhana FIVE, one of the fifth of your videos. But you want to really check out Ken's interview with Leo Pereni at Shakedown coming up later this week. Talked all about the motorsports angle stuff. So it was really good. I just watched it being shot, so I know it's awesome. So Gymkhana FIVE, right? So you did your fifth one, headed toward like a gazillion whatever views. What made you choose San Francisco? Was it the obvious Bullet stuff, or was it?
Bullet's always an influence on something like that. I mean, coming from motorsports and sort of the marketing side, Bullet's a reference that I hear a lot.
Yeah.
But with the other Gymkhana films, they were all done in like private facilities that we were able to rent and have to ourselves. But I'd always wanted to take that sort of driving and take it into real city streets. So the idea of doing San Francisco has sort of always been there with us. But I didn't really know that it was quite possible till we actually went up to scout a location just outside the city. And we thought it was okay, but not good enough for one of the videos. So we were coming back into the city, and the location scout said, "Hey, want to check out some locations around San Francisco?" And I thought, sure, I'll check them out. And they actually ended up being amazing locations. And I had asked for some more stuff, and they came back that they found more. So we had 2 more scouting trips up there, and it was on.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is how unexpected it was, and just like you said, the 4 previous to that were in places that you could really control every bit of it. I mean, obviously you guys plotted out the San Francisco thing and did all that, but it was cool to see it like you going by stores and stuff, and not like real stores, not like on the Universal lot, which was also cool. So when you scout a place like that, who do you call? Like,
the good thing about San Francisco is that there's a lot of movies and TV shows shot up there. Yeah. So there's a film commission that's very good to work with. The city's very good to work with, and like the police actually are used to doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's same here in New York. Like,
right.
You see sets all the time along the side of the road or blocking off streets or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just something they're used to doing. So when we set out to find more locations and do things, they just ended up being great to work with. So I absolutely loved it, like being out on that bridge all by myself. It was like the zombie apocalypse, Exactly. It was very cool.
When did you shoot those scenes? Because there's nobody around. You don't see another soul or another car. Was that early morning, like Sundays?
The bridge, the opening shots on the bridge and the off-ramp, and then the 2 shots right after that in the financial district were all shot on a Saturday.
Okay.
So that's when you have the least amount of traffic on the bridge, the least amount of people down the financial district. All the rest of the stuff was actually shot on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Once again, neighborhoods are fairly empty, during the week. People are off at work or whatever.
Yeah.
So it actually wasn't much of an issue at all blocking off these streets, and the people there and in the city and the cops were just great to work with. It just worked out to be amazing. The hardest part for me though was the fact that like these other facilities, like we go to do something in particular, set up all the cameras, like okay, I'm gonna go warm up the car, get myself ready.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in the city. Like we had like the small area where something was set up, and they get everything set up and say, okay, you can go. And I just have to go for it. But
yeah,
it's part of the challenge, I guess.
Do you set these things up somewhere else in a neutral environment and then sort of test out what you're going to do, or do you just go there and set it up and do it?
The only thing that I did that with was right at the beginning. I go backwards through 2 barrels.
Yeah.
That was just something I kind of had in my head for a while, that I wanted to figure out how to go backwards through something. And that I actually had to do, we had 1 day of testing for the car before we started filming to make sure everything was okay. So I set up that situation and learned how to do that before we started filming. But everything else was just all done on the spot.
Including the drift jump, which is all the rage, and everybody's talking about that.
The drift jump, I mean, that comes from rally.
Yeah.
On the gravel, we have a lot of crests and jumps, and you know, if it's a jump into, you know, a left-hand turn, you have to set up the car over the crest. You know, so a lot of times we come over these crests sideways in the air and land and into the turn. So it's something that has become a bit more popular. Like in drifting, there's been a couple shots of guys drifting over bumps and stuff. So I kind of wanted to take that and see how far I could go with it.
Like I've seen, especially in rally, you see you're going over a crest and you come in sideways, but that seemed to be, the angle just seemed to be much, much greater than any other angle I've seen.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with rally. You know, that's one turn of 1,000 on a stage. So you try and do it the best that you can. But with the Gymkhana stuff, we kind of take every situation and do everything at maximum attack, you know? Right. And so in that particular shot, you know, I did 4 or 5 before that to kind of build up the speed and figure out the exact speed and the gearing. And I started off a little bit slow, not knowing what the car would do and how far it would kick it out. Yeah. And finally on that last one, I think it was maybe 6th or 7th one, I did it in 3rd gear and just threw it in as hard as I could, and it worked out quite well.
Yeah, it worked out very well. When you set these up, you're thinking you're going 100% tarmac, because I was thinking, would you ever consider doing one that was partially gravel, dirt, or something, or do you just really want to keep it to what a real Gymkhana might be like?
It's basically Gymkhana on steroids is the way I look at it. You know, Gymkhana itself is a very fun, more grassroots type motorsport, like autocross, but with sliding the car. And in this, I've kind of taken that and gone as far as I can with it. It's sort of a combination of Gymkhana and like tarmac rally skills. Right. But the general idea really is to try and push the skills and push my car as hard as I possibly can. Yeah.
So tell me about the barge, because I talked to some of the guys that you worked with on there, and they seem to be more scared than you were.
Well, the funny thing about the barge is, like, we had this really great pier. Like, I wanted something right by the water. So there's a couple really great piers right on the water in San Francisco. Well, the original one that we wanted got rented out to somebody else that week. So we moved on to Fisherman's Wharf, found some great stuff there to do. That got taken away by something else. Then found Fort Mason had some really cool stuff, and that eventually went away because we couldn't get the right permits. So I was like, kept pushing them, let's find a ferry or a barge or something, and eventually they came back, they said, look what we found. You know, you know, 60 by 170 feet, you know, 170 foot piece of concrete that floats on the water. I said, oh, thank you. So we had this entire day just to do the part that's in the main body of the video, which is where I go on and go off it. But I was looking to try and make the credits just more interesting than what we've done before and more conceptual. Typically the credits have been just like the leftover shots or bloopers or whatever. But I wanted something really much more interesting. So we asked if we could take the barge out and I could drive on it, you know, when we were out in the bay, and they said yes. So we went out and did that stuff, and it was actually really surreal. It was wild being able to do that. Yeah, people were more nervous than I was. Like, they put a oxygen tank on my co-driver's seat, and they put a boat next to the big barge that had a diver on in case I went in. Yeah. That they could, and it's only somewhere between 30 and 50 feet deep, I think, out there in the middle. It's not so, but it's deep enough to kill me.
It's still, yeah. You can drown in a bathtub.
And the biggest fear of mine was like the throttle sticking or something going wrong with the car that I couldn't control. Yeah. Because we had left a lot of the edge of the boat open, like didn't put barriers up, because I wanted it to look really good and look more dangerous, you know?
Yeah, and it wouldn't have looked as good if there were a bunch of Jersey barriers.
Yeah, so that's why most of you look at the shots, it's really mostly just on the ends where those barriers are. Yeah. But at one point, throttle did stick wide open.
No, so like, what'd you do? You just
you just clutch and turn off the engine as quick as possible. And luckily, it was in a semi-safe place. I was coming around a slide, and it stuck wide open. But the car was aimed at one of the open areas.
So sorry, yeah.
But luckily, I was able to react quick enough, and it didn't.
Well, that's good. So, coming from this skate snowboard background, I mean, we all grew up. I mean, you were around the same age. We grew up watching skate videos go from these things that people passed around on VHS tapes or even beta, you know, back in the day, to to the DVD thing, to YouTube, and just watching the quality just get better and better and better. Do you always have that in mind? Is that something that you've consciously looked to, you know, merge the motorsports thing?
I mean, I grew up in the era of like when skate videos were really well produced and really popular, and seeing them like premiered like in theaters in Southern California, you know, right. I saw H Street and Plan B and Girl videos all premiered in these places. So, and I just loved like that feeling of seeing those guys do what they do and seeing it put together so well to great music. You know, I love that feeling, and that's being able to take that and somehow get it into motorsports has been my goal, because, you know, getting people to see these things in that sort of light and really like to watch these video parts over and over is something that I knew would be good marketing for us, and something that I would truly enjoy watching too. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand that connection. Like, to me, it's really obvious, but a lot of people in the motorsports world just have that no knowledge of like snowboard and skateboard videos and the sort of impact that they have on those kids.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, the impact now with YouTube, I mean, obviously you've turned that into an institutional kind of thing, which is awesome. So. Cool, Ken Block. Thanks for coming by, man.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Ken Block, Road Testament. Thanks, man. See you later.